So today we are going to be talking about every TCG counterpart and their OCG equivalent. So, Jason, what does that mean? In the original OCG release, there were some cards that never made it over to the global release. Like, for example, Cyberbrain was deemed too strong, so we got Brain Serum instead. And there are actually a handful of cards that went through that balancing treatment. And today, Andrew and I are going to go through each of them and give our comments. We're going to talk about whether we felt the change was necessary, and if not, how we might have handled things a bit differently. So we're going to go in chronological order. Now, Andrew, are you ready?
I thought you meant chronologically, like alphabetically, but I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's like Cyberbrain starts with a C, so I guess it makes sense that's what we would cover first.
Yeah.
But all right.
Serum starts with the B.
Ready or not, here we go. So the first thing we'll talk about is Cyberbrain to Brain Serum. So instead of 4 mana draw 3, or up to 3, it's now 4 mana draw up to 2. What are your thoughts on this, Andrew?
So I guess start by saying that this card is Hall of Famed, right?
Yep, I think it's Premium Hall of Fame, so they can't use any at all.
Yeah, they can't use any at all. So that just goes to show how broken it was in the OCG.
It's like first set as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I remember people just like splashing one copy, right? Or they only could play one copy, but like every deck played it.
When it first came out, everyone was playing max copies, and then when it got Hall of Fame, they gave it the Yu-Gi-Oh treatment where it's like, well, you have to play at least one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think like we talk about brainstorm, I feel like it is a really big nerve, which feels weird, right? Because like you think one card isn't that much of a difference.
Yeah.
But I think given the cost of the card, I think you do need that 3 cards, otherwise for it to be like even playable.
Yes.
Which is so weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. The way I think I can rationalize this is because Poisonous Mushroom, who came out in the same set, actually gives you so much more advantage when you play it with Cyberbrain. Because it feels like you're kind of just breaking even in terms of card advantage if you like
With
Mushroom
Brain
into
Serum.
Brain Serum.
Yeah.
Whereas
yeah.
with Cyberbrain, you plus.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a big difference. Also, I feel like with Brainstorm, we initially tried it right in a bunch of decks. We were just like we could just play this instead of energy stream, but it turns out no, you can't play it instead of energy stream.
Yeah, the 1 mana makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So
how would you balance it?
To be honest, I have the power of hindsight. I think the future iterations of the card are actually serviceable to good. Like, I think Brain Serum is actually a very reasonable nerf on Cyberbrain. And then eventually, like, a few sets later, we got Energy Stream, which is, like, the benchmark, I think, for draw spells.
Yeah.
And then even, like, Triple Brain, right? So it keeps the draw 3, but then it costs 1 more and loses Shield Trigger, which I think is quite reasonable.
Yeah, that's why I thought as well. So I had, like, what if you just take out the Shield Trigger, but keep it as like 4 mana? I think that would still be maybe still a bit too good.
Yes.
But like you said, I think Triple Brain is pretty fair. So
yeah,
maybe increasing it also by 1 mana.
Yeah, nice. Alrighty. The next card we're going to talk about is Deep Operation, which turned into Thought Probe.
Oh,
now, I don't know if you know this, Andrew, but Thought Probe is a card that actually never released in Japan. It's an English-only card, or rather a global-only card.
I guess that's really the theme of these cards, right? Like, I guess you'll see a bit later on, like Cranium Clamp didn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
In the OCG.
So Deep Operation, draw a card for each of your opponent's creatures in the battle zone, and with Thought Probe, you could cast this if your opponent has 3 or more creatures in the battle zone, and then draw 3. So Thought Probe is a super conditional draw 3, and then Deep Operation is a card with very large upside.
Now, I guess this is slightly off topic, but every time we talk about Thought Probe, I just get reminded of the conversation that we had, like you had with another friend of ours, like back in middle school, about Thought Probe versus Brain Serum.
Yeah, it was Kelvin, our friend Kelvin, who has appeared on the channel before, and another friend, Ben, who we called Bean. And Bean argued that Thought Probe was better than Brain Serum, and Kelvin was like, no, Brain Serum's better. Well, guys, let us know in the comments which card you think is better. We think Brain Serum is better. That's why we're still friends with Kelvin.
Probably just don't play either of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So Deep Operation is a really interesting card as well because this card was Hall of Famed at one point, but if you go on the trivia and the wiki, it will say like this is one of the most pointless Hall of Fames because it wasn't very good. And if we go back to the old OCG lists from that era, you won't find anybody playing Deep Operation because everyone was playing Cyberbrain.
I didn't even know this card had a counterpart.
Yeah, right. It's weird.
I thought the original OCG effect was okay, right? Like I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why they Hall of Famed it, but I think it was okay, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess your feedback is kind of like looking at the card at face value, and I tend to agree. I think the card is fine. This card never saw mass use in the OCG, so I don't think a nerf was really necessary.
Yeah. So I would just like keep the card as it is and see how it does.
Yeah.
I honestly have a feeling that it won't be too played.
Yeah.
Like played too much.
People will just play Energy Stream, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's still very conditional, and also like with 4 mana, it's like still quite early. So if you're playing on turn 4, you're not expecting to draw much.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now the next card I'm going to talk about is a promo, but it was like a promo that came out at around set 2, and it's one of my personal favorites, Divine Machine Armor Valborg. So what happened to him is he got his cost increased by 2, and his power increased by 1,000.
Oh man, look at that. 2 mana for 1,000. You sure that's not a buff?
It is definitely not a buff. And also, here's a fun fact for you. Groblav is just Valborg backwards because the card went backwards.
Blew my mind. Yeah, that actually blew my mind when I first found out. What? Yeah, I'm really disappointed in this card.
Same.
Because, like, I think humans are pretty cool. They just need that extra bit of, like, power. I feel like they're like, so close to being played.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, this card, I do feel like, this is, like, I guess speaking from some experience now with DMP, because they had this card in DMP.
Yes.
It was pretty good. I was pretty broken, I would say.
Yeah.
Having I think the double breaker is the main thing. So having like a 3 mana like double breaker, is really strong.
Which you can reasonably curve into as well, because a lot of humans are 2-drops.
Exactly, right. So yeah, you would just like break your opponent's shield so fast. Even if they didn't have a trig, they would just lose.
Yeah,
so, not very fun in that regard. But it does feel very like I was trying to think of like ways to balance this, and it's quite hard because you also have Valdios, and it's that 4 mana.
Yeah.
So you can't really like nerf the mana cost because then that would just be another Valdios.
Yeah, exactly, right? To be honest, if it were up to me, I wouldn't change anything. I think Valborg in the TCG would be fine, and I think the nerf is unnecessary. If you think about it, yes, Valborg in DMP was really good, and it was also really good in the early OCG, but it's a card that's extremely susceptible to power creep. Because it falls off like just a few sets after.
Oh, even in the OCG?
Yeah. The big emphasis was on water and nature because people played this as water fire, which is fine, but it kind of fell off. So I think it would be quite strong for a while, but then I think it also does have counterplay, and it is quite susceptible to power creep.
I guess it also depends on how good humans are. And I guess in the TCG, probably not. Like it's good, but also you're just running. It's pretty linear, right? So it's just a rush stick.
Yeah, The interesting thing in the TCG, though, is that it probably would have been really good for a while. It might have fallen off for a bit, but then with Gonta, it might become good again because you had like Gonta,
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Windax, Gallic.
that is pretty good. Yeah.
They're humans, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's very linear, and I think it would have been pretty cool to get this guy in TCG.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the other thing I had was like maybe you can remove the double breaker, but then maybe it won't be as good anymore.
Yeah, because then it's just strictly worse than the likes of say
Yeah.
Larbagear
Like-
or like Paladin.
Or like Spin Slicer later on, I guess.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
in saying that, I like how you brought that up because maybe you could create that sort of mini meta game where you have these like mini bosses just fighting each other. Like Barkwood
Oh, man.
is there too.
And Glycerin Jeklo will win all the time. Oh no, this guy gets power. Never mind. He
Yeah.
gets power.
Alrighty, so moving away from set 2, let's move into set 3. Streaming Shaper turned into Psychic Shaper. So what it does, they both reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, and then you grab all waters and dump the rest. They doubled the cost of this card because they thought it was too good.
By 3 mana as well, so they must have thought it was like so good. Right?
Yeah, this card is Hall of Famed in the OCG, so yeah, I guess 3 mana draw 4 is pretty nuts.
Yeah, that is pretty nuts.
So I think a nerf was necessary, but this is definitely an overcorrection.
They had a slightly in between version in DMP.
Uh-huh.
I think it was called I can't remember, something streaming tutor or something like that.
Okay.
Or maybe that was another card. I can't exactly remember. But its effect was you reveal the top 3
Yep.
in the same, so put all water, and it costed 4 mana.
Yeah. I think that's a really good compromise. Costs 4. So 4 mana, draw 3. So
Yep.
it's like Cyberbrain, but you have to build your deck around it.
Yeah, you have to build your deck around it. And it was really good in the MP because you had Zwei Lancer. But if you didn't have Zwei Lancer, I think it was like okay, it was playable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't broken.
Yeah. I think that's good. In my notes, what I had was could have made it 4 mana or 3 mana, draw 3. So
Yeah. Oh, nice. You maybe wizards should hire you.
No, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're on the same page.
3
here.
mana draw 4 is insane.
Yeah, 3 mana, draw 4, pretty good. The way we're trying to balance this card is we're forcing people to like build a deck around it, which is the original intent. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, with this version as it is, like the OCG version, I think you can splash it in more decks. Really, you don't have to play a majority water deck because like you'll still hit like 2 cards off of it.
Yeah, man, that's the Aquan logic. Because we're gonna talk about Aquan a little bit later, but in OCG it draws 5. And people would still play it in these 4-color control decks with fire. Because it's like,
right.
I don't care if I'm dumping my fire spells because I'm still drawing 3 other cards.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the end of part 1 of our mini-series covering the OCG to TCG retrains. In the next installment, we're going to continue covering some more crazy water draw cards, I'm sure you already know what they are, as well as some more unnecessary nerfs. In our opinion anyway. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.